You sat in the conference room, surrounded by your colleagues as your boss and your boss, Miss Nakamura, droned on about quarterly projections and upcoming projects. But your mind was miles away, fixated, much to your dismay, on a specific explosive hero. The memory of throwing yourself into Dynamite's arms played on repeat like a scratched CD. On the positive side, you learned two things. 1, you were weak. You were no better than a man. And 2, you could not die from mortification. It was just the exhaustion, you told yourself for the 100th time. I wasn't thinking straight. Clearly. No matter how many times you told yourself that you had gone momentarily insane, or how it was because you were so touched-starved that you literally flung yourself at the first warm body that crossed your way, you couldn't escape the truth. The hard, undeniable damn truth. You liked how it felt being held by him. Dynamite's arms were like steel cables wrapped in velvet. The memory of his muscular biceps pressing against your sides had you suppressing sighs. His broad chest had been warm and solid against your cheek, and for a brief moment you wanted nothing more than to bury your nose on his chest. No, stop it. This was Dynamite you were thinking, daydreaming? About the most infuriating, arrogant, hot-headed hero you'd ever had the misfortune of working with. He was just trying to get a rise out of you. And like an idiot, you'd let him. Wouldn't you agree? Miss Nakamura's voice snapped you back to reality. You blinked, realizing everyone in the room was staring at you. I'm sorry, could you repeat that? You asked, feeling heat creep up your neck. Aiko raised an eyebrow, but repeated her question about the timeline for the new support gear prototypes. You answered on autopilot, grateful for your ability to bullshit your way through work discussions. As the meeting continued, your thoughts drifted back to Dynamite. That insufferable man had gotten under your skin again, and he wasn't even here. You had always prided yourself on your cool, collected demeanor, but something about him just pushed all the wrong buttons. You grunted and wanted nothing more than to pull on your hair. And then there was that comment. That stupid comment. That comment that had moistened your panties. That comment that almost destroyed any sense of self-dignity you had. Good girl. The words echoed in your mind when you were watering your almost dead cactus, when you were brushing your teeth, when your face was plastered on the train's window. That comment never felt you alone, even now. You felt your face flush, and you ducked your head, pretending to study the papers in front of you. You didn't want to think about the way those two simple words had destroyed any morsel of feminism in your body. The way they had you almost whimpering like a cat in heat. The way that if he had asked you would have gladly bent over the table, dropped your underwear to your ankles, as long as he called you that again. Nope. No, you definitely didn't want to think about that. Because thinking about it meant acknowledging the attraction that had been simmering beneath the surface of your antagonistic relationship with him. And that was something you were absolutely not prepared to deal with. Nope. You forced yourself to focus on Aiko's words, desperate for any distraction from your traitorous thoughts. And that brings us to the Dynamite project, Aiko exclaimed. She turned to look at you. Can you give us an update on the progress of his new gear? You straightened in your chair. This you could do. Of course, you began. We've made significant progress on the new gauntlet design. The latest prototype should allow for more precise control over his explosions, increasing both power and accuracy. The more you talked about the technical details of the project, the more you relaxed. This was familiar territory, a place where you could be confident and in control. You didn't have to think about him or the way you were so close to jumping his bones. Jesus. I was right, you really did need to get laid. By anyone. Anyone not a certain blonde with deep ruby eyes. Definitely not him. Assuming all goes well, we should be ready for full implementation by the end of the month. You finished, realizing you'd been talking for several minutes. Rika nodded approvingly. Excellent work. I know Dynamite can be challenging to work with, but your results speak for themselves. You forced a smile, ignoring the looks some of your colleagues were exchanging. Dynamite's difficult reputation was well known throughout the industry, and more than a few people had reached out and expressed surprise at how well you seemed to handle him. If they only knew. You weren't handling him at all. He was driving you absolutely batshit crazy. As the meeting wrapped up and people began to file out of the room, you gathered your notes, lost in thought. You were so distracted that you didn't notice Aiko approaching until she was right beside you. Hey, do you have a moment? She asked, her tone casual but her eyes sharp. You nodded, following her to a quiet corner of the room. Is everything all right? You asked. Oh God, did she know? Did she know how inappropriate you were being with a client? Jesus, were you getting fired? Aiko studied you for a moment before speaking. You seemed distracted during the meeting, she said carefully. Is there something going on that I should be aware of? You felt your face heat up again. No, nothing at all, you blurted. I just didn't sleep well last night. Won't happen again. Please buy it. Please but it. Aiko's expression softened slightly. I know the Dynamite project has been demanding, she went on. If you need any additional support or resources, just let me know. We can't afford any mistakes on this one. You nodded. She was such a good boss, which made the guilt in your stomach churn. Thank you, Aiko. I appreciate that. But really, everything's fine. I've got it under control. You walked back to your office and wondered who you were trying to convince, Aiko or yourself. Because the truth was, when it came to dynamite, you didn't have anything under control. Not your project, not your emotions, and certainly not your needy body. You sank into your chair, rubbing your temples as you tried to focus on the mountain of work ahead of you. Get it together, you muttered to yourself. He's just another pro hero. Just another project. You groaned and placed your forehead on your desk. God, you were such a shit liar. He was anything but just another anything. He was a force of nature, unpredictable and intense, and working with him was like trying to harness lightning. And the worst thing is that you liked it. You pulled up the schematics for his new gauntlets, determined to lose yourself in work. But as you stared at the screen, all you could think about was how the gauntlets hugged Dynamite's muscular forearms, accentuating every curve and dip. God, the way his biceps had flexed as he'd tested them, had you nearly melted into a puddle right there. You imagined those strong arms pinning you against the wall, his body pressed flush against yours. You squeezed your thighs as you imagined running your tongue along the ridges of his abs, tasting the salt on his skin. You wanted to feel the rough calluses of his hands as they explored your body. With a frustrated groan, you pushed away from your desk. This was ridiculous. You were a professional, damn it. Yes, despite your thoughts and rather active imagination. You'd worked with plenty of attractive heroes before without losing your cool. What was it about Dynamite that got under your skin so thoroughly? You knew the answer, of course, even if you didn't want to admit it. It wasn't just his looks, although those certainly didn't hurt. It was the way he challenged you, pushed you. The way he saw through your sarcasm and met it with his own fiery retorts. The way he respected your skills, even as he drove you crazy. And now, after that night, you couldn't stop thinking about how it felt to be close to him. Nope, not going there again, you said aloud, shaking your head as if you could physically dislodge these dirty, not work-appropriate thoughts. You turned back to your computer, forcing yourself to focus on the task at hand. You had a job to do, and you'd be damned if you let anything get in the way of that. But as you worked, a small part of your mind wondered what might happen the next time you saw him. Would things be awkward? Would he pretend nothing had happened? Would he tease you about it, using it as ammunition? Or worse, would he report you to HR? What better way to solve this than by not solving anything and avoiding thinking about it? Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. You drummed your fingers on your desk. You scowled at the television mounted on the wall of your workshop. There he was, the explosive blonde menace himself, blasting villains left and right with those gauntlets you'd poured your heart and soul into. 3 weeks. It had been 3 goddamn weeks since you'd last seen him, and not a single word about how they were performing. Look at that smug bastard, you muttered, watching as he effortlessly took down another villain. Bet he's loving all the attention. Your phone buzzed, and you glanced down to see yet another news alert about his latest heroic exploit. You rolled your eyes so hard you nearly gave yourself a headache. Everyone was talking about his fancy new gear, praising the ingenuity, the power, the precision. And here you were, the actual fucking genius behind it all, sitting in your workshop like some forgotten rag. Would it kill him to pick up a phone? You grumbled, tossing a screwdriver from hand to hand. Hey, great job on the gauntlets. They're not complete crap. Thanks for not getting me killed. You mimicked his gruff voice. All you needed was a scowl and a leer that could murder people, and the look was completed. You stood up, pacing around your workshop. It wasn't just professional pride that had you steaming. No, there was something else, something you didn't want to, refused to admit. You missed him. Missed his stupid face, his ridiculous hair, even that permanent scowl. Fuck that. No you don't, you chided yourself. He's just another pro hero. Just another client. You flopped back into your chair, spinning aimlessly. Screw it, you muttered, reaching for your phone. You pulled up his contact info, thumb hovering over the call button. Wait. What would you even say? Hey, asswipe, remember me? The woman who saved your ass. You tossed the phone aside and groaned. Since when did you chase after anyone, let alone an arrogant pro hero with an ego the size of Tokyo? The TV caught your attention again. Dynamite was giving a post-battle interview, his chest puffed out. Yeah, these new gauntlets are something else, he was saying. Really pack a punch. You snorted. Oh, so he does know. As if he'd heard you through the screen, his eyes seemed to lock with yours for a moment. You gulped, like the true idiot you were. Then he was looking away, back at the reporter, and the moment was gone. You laughed. Really laughed out loud. You were such an idiot. 1, for thinking you had a moment with him over the damn TV, like a lunatic. 2, because you really thought he would actually get in contact with you. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. You sighed heavily as you took another sip of your beer. This was your second one. You were beginning to wonder if we're becoming an alcoholic because the liquid was doing next to nothing to soothe your nerves. The izakaya buzzed with the low hum of conversation and clinking glasses, but your mind was elsewhere, fixated on a certain explosive hero and his equally explosive gear. Your gear, you corrected. Your baby's. All right, spill it, Mai said, setting down her own drink with a thud. The yellow liquid spilled onto the table. What's got your panties in such a twist? You've been moping into your beer all night. I'm not moping. I'm just thinking. All right. And would this thinking have anything to do with a certain hot-headed hero? I'm just worried about the gauntlets, okay? I have no idea how they're performing, and it's driving me crazy. Oh, so what I am hearing is that you're worried about Dynamite. How sweet. She gave you a saccharine smile, and you returned the favor by softly throwing a beer-soaked napkin at her. What? No, that's not even close to what I said. I'm not worried about him, you bit out. I'm worried about my work. My babies, my gauntlets. There's a difference. Mai hummed, still smiling at you. And I'm sure that's all there is to it. Nothing else happened between you two, right? That godforsaken comment filled your ears, and you almost choked on your beer. Your skin suddenly felt incredibly hot, and you prayed to any god that was listening that it was because of the beer. But as you turned and was met with Mai's gleaming violet eyes, you knew that the gods had forsaken you. Oh my God, she gasped, leaning forward eagerly. Something did happen. Spill now. You groaned, burying your face in your hands. It's nothing really. Just a thing, I guess. A thing. You rested your cheek on your hand. A moment, I guess. I mean, if I had to call it something. A moment, Mai pressed, leaning in closer. What kind of moment? Did you kiss? Did he confess his undying love for you? What? No. A few nearby patrons glanced your way, and you lowered your voice. Nothing like that. It was just, we were working late one night, and there was an incident with the gauntlets. They malfunctioned. Mai nodded encouragingly, practically vibrating with anticipation. You sighed, knowing you weren't going to get out of this without spilling the beans. Fine. Long story short, I kind of jumped into his arms. Mai's squeal of delight was so high-pitched you were surprised glasses didn't shatter. You did what? Keep your voice down, you hissed, glancing around nervously. It wasn't like that. I mean, maybe it kinda was? I don't know. You shook your head. I was exhausted and I had a huge aha moment. And he was there, and I honestly don't know what in God's good name compelled me to do that. Mai said, grinning like the cat that got the cream. And I'm sure Dynamite didn't mind one bit, did he? You felt your face grow hot as you remembered the feeling of his strong arms around you, that heavily sweet smell. He teased me about it, you admitted reluctantly. Ooh, he teased you. Mai wiggled her eyebrows suggestively. Do tell. You groaned, wishing the floor would open up and swallow you whole. He made some comments about me falling for him. Literally and figuratively. It was mortifying. Mai's grin widened. Sounds to me like he was flirting with you. You snorted. He wasn't flirting. He was just being his usual pain-in-the-ass self. Right, Mai drawled. And that's why you're sitting here, drowning your sorrows in beer and worrying about his gauntlets. You opened your mouth to argue, then closed it again, realizing you didn't have a good comeback. Mai's expression softened, and she reached across the table to pat your hand. Look, hun, she said gently. It's obvious you care about him, even if you don't want to admit it. And from what you've told me, it sounds like he might care about you too. You scoffed again. Yeah, right. Dynamite doesn't care about anyone but himself. I don't think that's true, Mai countered. He cares about being a hero, doesn't he? And he cares about his gear working properly. Which, by the way, brings me to my point. You raised an eyebrow, waiting for her to continue. Why don't you just reach out to him? Mai suggested. Ask him directly about the gauntlets. It's a perfectly legitimate reason to contact him, and it'll give you a chance to, talk. Your stomach twisted. I can't do that, you protested. He'll think I'm desperate or something. Mai rolled her eyes. For crying out loud, you're his support tech. It's literally your job to make sure his gear is working properly. There's nothing desperate about it. Damn. Mai might be right. You were his support tech. It did make sense to contact him about the gauntlets. Only about the gauntlets. I don't know. Look, Mai said. I know you're stubborn as hell, and so is he. But sometimes you've got to swallow your pride and take the first step. What's the worst that could happen? You could think of about 100 worst-case scenarios, but you kept them to yourself. Instead, you sighed heavily, taking a sip of your warm beer. You placed your hands on the glass, and used your quirk to cool it. I guess you're right, you admitted reluctantly. It is my job to make sure the gear is functioning correctly. Mai beamed like she had just won the lottery. Exactly. And who knows? Maybe this little chat about gauntlets will lead to something more. You rolled your eyes. Don't get ahead of yourself. This is strictly professional. Sure, Mai said, winking. Just professional. Got it. You finished your drinks and prepared to leave the izakaya. The thought of reaching out to Dynamite made your palms sweat, but you knew Mai was right. You needed to know how the gauntlets were performing, both for your peace of mind and for the sake of your job. Asterisk. You slumped in your chair, your eyes glued to your phone screen as if willing it to light up with a notification. The text you'd sent Dynamite about the gauntlets hours ago remained infuriatingly unanswered. Come on, you explosive porcupine, you muttered, tapping your foot impatiently. How hard is it to type, yes or no? As the hours ticked by, you grew increasingly more irritated and volatile. You'd put so much effort into those gauntlets, and the least he could do was send a measly yes or no. That's all. But no, he couldn't even do you that tiny itsy bit of a favor. With a huff, you tossed your phone onto your workbench and turned your attention to other projects. Fine. If he wants to be an asswipe, let him for all I care. I've got plenty of other things to do, you grumbled, diving into your work. The sky outside your workshop windows darkened, the city lights flickering to life as night fell. You were focused in circuitry when the door burst open, startling you so badly you nearly electrocuted yourself. Fuck, you yelped, whirling around. Dynamite stood in the doorway, his hero costume torn and singed in places. His spiky blonde hair was even more disheveled than usual, and there was a thin sheen of sweat on his brow. But what caught your attention was the small gash on his shoulder, blood slowly seeping through the torn fabric. You blinked rapidly, your brain struggling what was happening, and your almost electrocution. Dynamite? Is that you? No shit, Sherlock. Who else would it be? He growled, stepping further into your workshop. What are you doing here? Dynamite scoffed and smirked. You asked me to come, didn't you? Or are you too scatterbrained to remember your own messages? I didn't, you started, then paused, furrowing your brow. Wait, no. I asked about the gauntlets. I didn't tell you to come here. TCH, same difference. Again, there was a difference. A very big difference. You opened your mouth, but your gaze fell back to the wound on his shoulder. The gash wasn't deep, but it was still bleeding steadily. Onto your floor. God, you hated blood, you really did, but you couldn't just ignore that there was someone actively bleeding in front of you. You set down your tools and made your way to the explosive, bleeding porcupine. What the hell happened to you? He scoffed and sauntered into your workshop. What does it look like, nerd? I was doing my job. Some low-life villains thought they could take me on. You rolled your eyes, grabbing a first aid kit from a nearby shelf. And let me guess, you showed them the error of their ways by blowing them halfway across the city? TCH. They weren't worth the effort, he growled, dropping into a chair. And why, pray tell, didn't you go to the hospital like a normal person? He scoffed. Because I'm fine, dumbass. It's just a scratch. A scratch? You gestured to his bleeding shoulder. That's not a scratch, that's a gash. You should be at the hospital getting proper treatment. I said I'm fine, he growled, his jaw clenching. Don't need some quack poking at me when I've got work to do. Oh yes, because bleeding all over my workshop is such important work. Seriously, Dynamite, you need medical attention. That needs to be looked at by a professional. I am a professional, nerd. I know my limits. Clearly not, you announced, reaching for his shoulder. He jerked away. There was no freaking way that didn't hurt. Just leave it. You sighed, pinching the bridge of your nose. Fine. If you won't go to the hospital, at least let me clean and bandage it properly. I'm not having you bleed out in my workshop because you're too pig-headed to admit you need help. You approached him, first aid kit in hand. It's fine. Just a scratch. I'm not some fucking pussy who needs babying over every little scrape. Why was he so damn stubborn? Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot you were too manly and tough to accept basic medical care. My mistake. Damn straight, he snapped, but you could see the way he was favoring his injured side. Look, you said, trying to keep your voice level, I know you're not a... He glared at you, waiting, daring you to say it. A coward. But letting that wound get infected isn't brave, it's stupid. So how about you stop being a stubborn adult for 2 minutes and let me bandage it? He glared at you, his jaw clenched tight, studying your face. Fine, he grumbled. But make it quick. I don't have all night. You bit back a smirk of triumph as you set the first aid kit on the table beside him. I'll try not to keep you from your busy schedule of yelling at walls and punching things. Sit down. To your surprise, he obliged. Great, now what? You stared at the wound on his shoulder. Shit, this was a bad idea. You needed to touch him. Your fingers needed to touch his shoulder. To clean and bandage it properly, you'd need to touch him. Your fingers twitched nervously at your sides. Shit. Dynamite's eyes drifted to your hands, and a smirk played across his lips. What's the matter, nerd? Never seen a real man up close before? You scoffed, trying to hide your sudden nervousness. Please. I've seen plenty of real men. They usually don't whine as much as you do. Yeah, right. He grinned as he slumped against the chair. Bet you've never had your hands on a hero like this before. Don't flatter yourself. I've worked with plenty of heroes. Yeah, but none of them were me, he sneered. Thank God for small mercies. His laugh was rough and unexpected. Admit it, nerd. You're enjoying this. Enjoying patching up an overgrown toddler? Hardly. Dynamite's eyes locked onto yours. Keep telling yourself that, sweetheart. We both know the truth. You couldn't speak even if you wanted to. The words died in your brain. There was no way that he just called you sweetheart. Right? Heat crept up your neck, coloring your cheeks despite your best efforts to remain unfazed. His smirk grew wider, his crimson eyes glinting with triumph. What's the matter, nerd? Forget how to speak, he taunted, his smirk growing impossibly wider. Or are you just overwhelmed by my presence? Ugh, he was playing with you. The only thing overwhelming me is your ego. Keep telling yourself that, he smirked, his breath hot against your ear as you leaned in. We both know you're loving every second of this. As if, face it, you're lucky. Not just anyone gets to touch the number 2 hero like this. Bet you've been dreaming about it. Your face burned hotter. Lucky. Please. The only thing I'm dreaming about is getting my peace and quiet back. No need to be shy, sweetheart, he teased, his voice low and rough. I know you're enjoying every second of this. Don't give in. It's just a word. Please, you snapped, yanking another antiseptic wipe. And don't call me sweetheart. I'm not enjoying this, I'm enduring it. There's a difference. Sure, he drawled, his voice dripping with sarcasm. That's why you're blushing like a schoolgirl. I'm not blushing. It's just hot in here from all the hot air you're blowing. Dynamite barked out a laugh. Nice try, but we both know you're not that clever. Clever enough to design gear that keeps you from getting blown up, you retorted, waving the antiseptic wipe threateningly. Yeah. You gonna use that or just wave it around all night? You opened your mouth, but Dynamite cut you off. Look, as much as I'm enjoying watching you flounder, I'm gonna bleed out if you don't get around to it, he said, gesturing to his still bleeding shoulder. Fine. But don't think this means I like you or anything. Wouldn't dream of it, sweetheart, he smirked, making you grit your teeth in frustration. Your hands shook slightly as you leaned in, attempting to clean around the torn fabric of his costume. But the material kept getting in the way. Damn it, you mumbled, struggling to maneuver around the costume. This isn't working. Dynamite's smirk widened. What, you need me to strip for you? All you had to do was ask, nerd. You blushed and you jerked back. And no, that won't be necessary. You know what? I think your wound will be fine after all. Just slap a band-aid on it and call it a day. Oh, Dynamite raised an eyebrow. Giving up already? That's pretty sloppy of you, leaving a job half-assed like that. The sheer audacity of this man. Here you were actually worried about him. Fine. If you're so eager to criticize, then take off your damn shirt so I can do this properly. Without breaking eye contact, he reached for the hem of his shirt. Your wish is my command, nerd. Maybe it wouldn't have been so bad if you had electrocuted yourself, because it would have been better than audibly gasping as he peeled off his shirt in one fluid motion. The fabric clung to his skin for a moment before giving way, revealing a sculpted torso. Defined muscles rippled under tan skin, marred here and there by scars. You stared, you couldn't help it, your eyes tracing the defined muscles of his shoulders and upper arms, of his chest and abs. A bead of sweat rolled down his neck, following the curve of his collarbone before disappearing into the dip between his pectorals. Your eyes were drawn to a long, white scar over his heart. It stood out against his tan skin. Your fingers twitched, an inexplicable urge to trace its length overwhelming you. You swallowed hard, trying to focus, but your gaze kept drifting back to that scar. It called to you, begging to be touched, explored, kissed. You bit your lip, fighting the temptation to reach out. Like what you see. Dynamite's cocky voice snapped you out of your trance. You realized your mouth had been hanging open, and quickly snapped it shut. I was just assessing the damage. You lied, your face burning. Sure you were. You swallowed hard. Let's just get this over with. Your fingers brushed against his warm, hard skin. I am calm. I am a river of calmness. I am a fucking ocean of calmness. You swallowed again. Your heart drummed in your chest. You squeezed your legs together, trying to stop sudden ache in your core. He was just a man. A bratty, insufferable, irritable, explosive man. Annoying, arrogant, infuriating Dynamite. So why couldn't you stop your hands from trembling like a chihuahua? Your fingers hovered over his shoulder. They were broad and powerful, the muscles rippling under his skin with every slight movement. They were nice, very nice. They flexed as he shifted in the chair, the play of light and shadow accentuating their impressive size. It was clear why he was one of the top heroes. His body was nothing short of extraordinary. There were so many scars littering his skin. His muscles tensed slightly as you lightly ran over your index finger across his skin. You wondered what it would feel like to freely run your hands over those broad shoulders without the pretext of shitty faux medical care. You gonna stare all night, or are you actually gonna do something? You felt heat rush to your cheeks. I'm not staring. You were more like ogling, in fact. It's called being thorough. Sure, he smirked, and you could hear the amusement in his voice. And I'm sure that assessment has nothing to do with my incredible physique. Please. I've seen better. Dynamite's smirk faltered, eyeing you for a second before grinning like a madman. Oh yeah, where exactly have you been ogling better bodies, nerd? You gulped. Shit. You hadn't actually seen anyone with a better body, but your pride wouldn't let you admit that. A name popped into your head before you could stop yourself. Deku, you blurted out. Yeah, Deku's got you beat. Dynamite squinted, jaw clenching. Deku? That nerd? You've got to be shitting me. There was something in his voice, in the way he sat up a bit straighter that confirmed all those rumors about Dynamite's one-sided rivalry with Japan's new symbol of peace. Don't poke the beast. Don't poke the beast. I mean, have you seen him lately? You fanned yourself. Tisich, Dekka's got nothing on me, Dynamite growled, flexing his muscles. You need your eyes checked, sweetheart. You wanted to laugh. Was he really flexing? You bit your lower lip, trying to stop yourself from smiling. I told you not to call me that. And maybe you're the one who needs their eyes checked. Dekka's quite the specimen these days. Dynamite leaned in closer, his breath hot on your ear. Why don't you take a closer look then? Tell me that damned nerd got anything on this. You jerked back, your face burning. I don't need to look any closer. I've seen enough. Have you? He challenged. Because I think you haven't seen anything yet. What in heaven's good name was going on? You knew he was teasing you, you knew it, but you still couldn't help the way your heart almost leapt out of your chest. Trust me, I've seen all I need to see. Now, can we please finish before you get blood everywhere? You sputtered. You cleaned the gash and Dynamite hissed. Careful, nerd. I thought you were supposed to be good with your hands. Oh, I'm sorry, you retorted sarcastically. Would you prefer I kiss it better? His crimson eyes locked onto yours, that dangerous glint in them, making your skin prickle. That an offer? Yes. No. You blushed again. In your dreams, Dynamite. TCH. You wish you were in my dreams, sweetheart. You pressed the antiseptic wipe against his wound, making him wince. I told you not to call me that. Dynamite's grin only widened. Oh, then what am I supposed to call you, sweetheart? I don't know, how about my name? Nah, I think I'll stick with sweetheart. I like it when you're angry. You're impossible, you know that? Part of my charm, he smirked, flexing his arm as you continued cleaning his wound. Charm? Is that what you call it? You willed yourself not to notice, not to care, but you were weak. Your fingers kept wandering. His skin was warm, almost feverishly hot. The hard planes of muscle shifted under your touch as he breathed. You traced the curve of his shoulder. A shiver ran through you. God, he felt good. Solid. Powerful. Your cunt clenched with want. You bit your lip, fighting the urge to explore further. To run your hands down his chest, to feel the ridges of his abs. To trace every scar with your tongue. Your pussy throbbed. Fuck. 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 Admit it, you love it, he teased, his voice low and husky. You didn't dignify that with a response, instead pressing the antiseptic wipe against his wound a little harder, making him hiss again. Watch it, nerd. You know, for someone who claims to be so tough, you sure whine a lot. I don't whine, he growled. Oh really? What do you call all this complaining then? Manly grunting. He laughed. But this laugh wasn't mean or sarcastic, it was genuine, so much so that you felt the corners of your mouth twitch. You've got a real mouth on you know that? You smiled. Part of my charm. Oh, so you admit you're trying to charm me, sweetheart? Ah, please. And stop calling me that. You always this mouthy with everyone, or am I just special? He crooned his head towards you, his face was inches from yours. The proximity made your heart race. You met his gaze, your voice was strong despite the butterflies swarming in your stomach. Only with people who don't know when to stop talking. Dynamite barked out a laugh, genuine amusement lighting up his stupidly handsome face. Damn, nerd. You really don't back down, do you? Never have, never will, you retorted, a small smile playing on your lips. You finished cleaning the wound and hesitated for a moment before placing your hand gently on his shoulder. This might feel a little strange, you warned. What are you dash? Before he could finish, you activated your quirk. A soft, cool sensation emanated from your palm, spreading across his skin. It wasn't much, your quirk was minimal at best, but it was enough to soothe the inflamed area around the cut. The hell? Dynamite muttered. Cooling effect, you explained. It's not much, but it should help with any swelling. You could feel his eyes on you. When you finally looked up, you found him watching you with an intensity that made you feel like you had done something wrong. Not bad, nerd. Maybe you're not completely useless after all. Wow, high praise indeed. I'm truly honored. As you began to wrap a bandage around his shoulder, Dynamite's smirk widened. You know, he began, if you wanted to get your hands on me, you could have just asked. No need for all this fussing. You nearly dropped the bandage. What? That's not, I'm just trying to help, you egotistical jerk. Sure. Keep telling yourself that. Your red face says otherwise. Whatever, you whispered under breath. You finished bandaging his shoulder. There, you said, stepping back quickly. All done. Try not to blow it up or anything. You took a step back, trying to put some distance between yourself and the number 2 hero's shirtless form. Your eyes lingered on his well-defined torso, and you couldn't really blame yourself. It wasn't every day you got to look at someone that looked like him. You can put your shirt back on now. What's the rush, nerd? Afraid you might enjoy the view too much? Please. Now put your shirt on before you catch a cold or something. TCH. As if I'd get sick that easily. Dynamite stood and put on his shirt, rolling his shoulder experimentally. Not bad. Then, with a smirk that could only be described as predatory, he added, "You know, if you ever want to play nurse again, I might let you. For practice, of course. You should have just let him bleed everywhere." "Play nurse? Are you kidding me?" You sputtered, indignation rising in your chest. "I'm a professional, not some fantasy figure for your amusement. Relax, nerd. It's called a joke. Ever heard of one?" "Oh, I've heard plenty of jokes," you retorted, crossing your arms. "I'm looking at one right now." He barked out a laugh. "Ouch. That the best you got? I've got plenty more where that came from, but I'd hate to bruise that fragile ego of yours." "Fragile," he scoffed. "Please. My ego can take whatever you dish out, sweetheart. I told you to stop calling me that." "Make me," he challenged, leaning in close. "Don't take the bait, don't do it." You took a step back, desperate to change the subject before you did something stupid like notice how good he smelled up close, or worse, take him up on his offer to play nurse. "Anyway," you said, clearing your throat, "how are the gauntlets working out? That's the whole reason you're here, right?" "They're fine," he bit out. "Fine? That's all you have to say after I spent weeks perfecting them. What do you want, a medal? They work. That's what matters, isn't it?" "Fine. Fine. All you got was a fine?" "No, that's not all that matters," you snapped. "I need actual feedback. What works? What doesn't? Any issues during combat? What's there to say? They go boom when I want 'em to. End of story." "That's not enough," you exclaimed, throwing your hands up. "I need details, Dynamite. Precision, control, comfort. These things matter. TCH. You want details? Fine. They're a bit heavy on the left side, and the ignition's slower than I'd like." Finally. You were finally getting somewhere. "See? Was that so hard? Now we can actually make improvements, dash." "Improvements? I told you they're fine. Don't go messing with them just cause you're feeling insecure." "Insecure?" Your eye twitched. "I'm trying to do my job, you explosive porcupine. Unlike some people, I actually care about doing things right." Dynamite's jaw clenched. The smell of smoke filled the room. "What did you just call me?" he growled, taking a step towards you. "How stupid could you be? How could you have forgotten who he was? But you know what? Fuck him and his half-assed replies. You'd been agonizing, torturing yourself over the gauntlets, and all he could answer was fine." "You heard me," you retorted. "Explosive. Porcupine." He closed the distance between you in 2 quick strides, looming over you with his imposing frame. "You've got a lot of nerve, nerd," he snarled, his face inches from yours. "Oh, I'm sorry," you shot back sarcastically. "Did I hurt the big bad hero's feelings?" "You wish," he scoffed, his breath hot on your face. "Takes more than some smart-ass comment to get under my skin." "Could have fooled me," you quipped, gesturing to his clenched fists. "You look pretty riled up to me, Porcupine." Dynamite's eyes flashed dangerously. "Keep pushing it, sweetheart. See what happens." "I told you not to call me that," you hissed, jabbing a finger at his chest. He caught your wrist, his grip firm but not painful. "And I told you to make me," he growled, pulling you closer. You were nose to nose with the explosive hero, your breaths mingling in the scant space between you. The tension crackled like electricity, making your skin tingle and your heart race. "You're impossible," you said through gritted teeth, your eyes falling to his snarling mouth. "Right back at you, sweetheart," he smirked, his eyes darting to your lips for a split second before meeting your gaze again.